Welcome back. This is episode 14 of the Aussie Roll Call podcast. I am one of your hosts, Stevie. In this episode, we head down south to talk to a game designer in Lutruwita, also known as Tasmania, Joie Yong. At the time of recording this episode, Joie had already released one game, Zombies, and was working on her next release, Cryptid Keeper. We get more information about what those games are and what they involve in the episode. We also dive into the Tasmanian game scene and learn about what cool and fun things are happening in Lutruwita. In news, we cover upcoming events, cool shops, and a Kickstarter where synthwave meets punk rock wasteland. So, with all that to get through, let's dive into our interview with Joie Yong. Welcome back to the Aussie Roll Call podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Stevie, and today I'm joined by my co-host, Dan.
Hi.
And our wonderful interviewee. Do you want to take a moment to introduce yourself to our lovely listeners? Tell them a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Hi everyone, I'm Joie Yong, that's Joieyong, and I am a new game designer out in Tasmania. I kind of sit between both in the analog games and the digital games realm, so I'm kind of all over the place a little bit. In my day job, I am a professional graphic designer.
Amazing. So both digital and analog. That is a very common area, I think, to play in. Tell us a little bit about the sorts of projects that you work on.
So as a game designer, I have just one release right now, which is Zombies, a little game where you play as zombies and kind of like gang together to do various like things. It's a little bit similar to Honey Heist in that kind of like heisty kind of gang and funny, wacky kind of area. And I also have another one coming out soon by the time this is released, but I'm currently just play testing right now. So that one's called Cryptid Keeper, where you play as kind of like zookeepers, but in a cryptid sanctuary and help them, like survive, don't keep hunters away, keep the zoo running, that sort of thing.
Okay, that sounds fantastic. Tell us a little bit about how you got started in designing tabletop role-playing games. Like, what was the inspiration for Zombies? How did that come about?
So my journey started all the way in 2018, where I first came on board at PAX as an enforcer in the tabletop department. And that's kind of where I first started to really get to know ARC way back when, and also like, oh, it's not just D&D. And then kind of went quiet a little bit because I was still wrapping up uni, and then there was all this immigration stuff as I'm from Malaysia originally. And then I kind of came back into enforcing in 2023 after COVID and all that. And then I met John again at ARC and just kind of like chatted, talked, and really got into the community. I spent a year kind of volunteering and working with ARC as like a consultant and designer with the ARC creative collectives. And then I kind of started to write Zombies and just develop my own thing. So it kind of took a while.
That's fantastic. So your second game that you are releasing, Cryptid Keeper, what was the creative inspiration behind that idea? I absolutely love the idea of like running like this sanctuary of cryptids, but I would love to know, what was the inspiration for that?
There's no like real like specific piece of inspiration, but I've always just really liked this kind of like weird, creepy, kooky kind of thing. So like Zombies also in the same realm. So, like, oh, what would it be like to have like the Mothman living peacefully in its own little habitat right next to, like, say, the Loch Ness Monster and that kind of vibe. So just like really weird little things.
I love the visual I'm getting from that idea and the individual dens that they'd all need.
Yeah, so you can kind of like roll from a table that I've created to have like, oh, what habitat does this cryptid live in, and how many of them live in there, and sort the little things that happen throughout the day as you play. So it can be solo or in a group, and you can have a GM or without. Hopefully the mechanics work out.
Well, that's what the playtesting is
Yeah.
for. I'm sure the mechanics are going to be great, and the playtesting will just massage those into place, or at least that's my experience with that sort of work. So, in your day job, you said you're a graphic designer. Is that right?
Yes.
Wonderful. How do you find your graphic design skills port over into the tabletop role playing space?
Well, it does mean I don't have to hire external help to get my games done up in layout and all that, because I do specialize in product packaging and print work as well. So I always pretty much do my own art and design and layouts and all that. So it's kind of like most designers I know are kind of like one man job, but like, yeah, I do everything myself, and then I get it to print myself as well. So that's been a really big help, actually.
I can imagine that would be saving a lot of money on that front.
Oh, exactly. And not just that, but just in terms of being able to then draw it and then write it up as well, and the synergy with having to explain all of that to somebody else as well, just knowing exactly what you want.
Yeah, especially I think if you have the design background, like when I write, this is highly not recommended. I write directly in my design program, and I will shift paragraphs or things around to fit what I kind of visualize in my head of like what would suit the layout best. But I would not recommend this approach if you are not someone who is like very experienced with it, because it will slow you down and you might get hung up on your writing, which is the main thing. Let's be real.
Yeah, but I can see why that coming from like a visual background, that would make sense for you to work that way. Like if you're thinking specifically of what the layout's going to look like, you're sort of that's kind of prioritizing the layout first and sort of like making sure that the text fits where it needs to be, and presumably because you're very quick with these programs, it doesn't slow you down too much.
Yeah, so I think my process is quite different from your average game designer. So, like, I will have specific like blocks of things that I'll be like, oh, okay, this table is going to take up a whole page, or this section's going to flow better if it's on its own page, etc. So I tend to keep that in mind while I'm writing, and also shift it around based on when the art's done as well.
Makes sense to me. What is coming at this from your graphic design background? What are some, I guess, tips or suggestions you might have for people who are trying to, create and publish their first games? What would be some, I guess, tips for beginners in terms of getting some of the layout stuff looking pretty good?
My biggest tip would be, don't try to make everything from scratch, because there's a lot of like free or royalty free or just attribute free layout themes, art, like design resources, fonts all over the internet. So it is not that hard to get your hands on something at either zero cost or low cost to make your game look good.
Amazing. Do you have any like recommended, I guess, repositories for free layouts or free art assets, things like that?
Oh god, it's probably way too much to just go on. But itch actually has a lot of free stuff you could use. Free pick as well is pretty good. If you're looking for photos, like really good high-res photos, there's also Pexels, Pexels. But really, if you just search, a lot of just Google search it, really. Yeah.
Google search it, check the attributions, check
Yes. Copyright information.
check what the copyright information is. Yeah, fantastic. So that's you and your journey as a game designer. Has anything sort of like surprised you with the process of designing games? Has there been any like major things that you didn't expect?
Two things probably. One is the Australian community is very, very supportive, and it's been great. Like whether you're a newbie like me or someone more seasoned, I think like everyone here has been pretty good at just like supporting each other and helping everyone get on their own journey. So I've actually never actually had anyone come and be like, wow, that sucks or anything like that. So I was kind of surprised by that. And second would probably be like the difference between digital games and analog games in terms of funding, like monetary support, I guess you would call it, which I'm sure everyone here is like, yeah, it sucks.
Yeah, for anyone listening who might not be on the more, I guess, financial end of this equation, the funding that digital games gets tends to be quite a lot. There's a lot of grants going, there's a lot of government funding, whereas for us little analog creators, there is not so much. I do think that that does partially come down to digital games having a foot in the tech sector, whereas analog games are firmly, I feel, in the arts sector, and that probably contributes to the lack of funding because arts is, let's just say, always critically underfunded. But yeah, it's definitely a big difference, I reckon. Wonderful. So, Joey, you live in the beautiful Lutruwita in Tasmania. What is the gaming scene like down there? Now, for context, I was born and raised in Tasmania myself, so I definitely have a soft spot for it. But I would love to know what the scene is like. So, would you love to share with our lovely listeners what's happening down there?
So in Tasmania, because we're so small, I think the gaming community tends to be very organized into like the single entity, which is Tas Game Makers. So this is a community of game developers, artists, writers, everything that you can think of related to games. So we have like a Facebook page, a website, membership, and a Discord. But I will say it's heavily, heavily leaning towards the digital games sector. I'm one of the people there who does analog games. I am not the only one, but yeah, it's kind of dry. There's a few studios and people who also do board games in Tasmania. So one of them is Kingless by 219 Studios, who were at PAX last year, and then we also had Cultivaria from Test Pit Games. Apart from that, we also have obviously Ella Lim, who is one of our more notable TTRPG game devs down here, who does a lot of solo journaling games, award winning as well.
Yeah, she is award winning. I can't remember exactly what the category was. It might have been best rule set for one of her games at RPR. I can't remember which year for RPR it was though. But yes, she is
That
definitely
was 2023, I believe, because we
2023?
didn't have it last year.
Correct. So 2023 award winning, RPR award winning, LLM. So there's definitely interesting stuff coming out of Tasmania.
It's still Sunday, and I'm down here with Anthony Christo from Luminous Studios. How you doing? How's your day been? It looks like you are pretty artlands over here in this corner.
Yes, we are having a great time.
Yeah, good time. All right, we've got 5 questions for you. Promise it's going to be super fast. We've got this. Favorite snack at the TTRPG table?
Oh, my favourite is kettle salt and vinegar chips.
Oh, yes, please.
Yes.
All right, we'll go with dice. What about a favorite shape? Are you a D6, a D20? I like weird non-cal floppy D4?
My favourite is the D6.
D6?
But my version of it is the Dice Goblin. I've got a Goblin D6 that's balanced and tested. I love rolling my Goblin.
Got to roll the one.
That sounds funny.
Do you have a favourite set? I mean, I can see some really beautiful sets on the table here.
My favourite set to look at and use as well is the Dragon Eye set, the full set. I use the D6 Goblin when I need to.
Yeah.
Also doubles up as like a figurine on the table when they're fighting goblins.
Absolutely. All right. Tabletop game to introduce brand new players to. What's your favourite one to introduce? You've got a brand new player that never played TTRPG before.
I do like Call of Cthulhu, but I also am obviously being a D&D person, 5e, or any sort of D&D
Totally
setting.
fair.
Yeah.
Totally fair. What about your tabletop must-have? You've got dice, you've got snacks. What else you got?
Oh, I really like good maps that I create with canvas or really beautiful miniatures hand painted. I like that. I like to really be engrossed in it. I like the tactile, make people feel like they're in the world, they're immersed.
For sure. All right, last question. The important one, in my opinion. You need like a little companion, like a familiar in D&D, could be a little robot, little animal guy. What's your little buddy?
Yeah, so for me, it'd be more like an NPC, and it'd be like our own species of creatures. They're called Anirians. They have wings. They're human. They're pretty tall. They're human-like, but they have a dragon head and a lion head. Two heads, dual-headed creature that can teleport you in and out of the dream plane.
That's heckin' cool. Excuse me while I go over and look at some of your books, especially the stuff that I know is coming out in the not too distant future.
Thank you.
Well, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your Sunday. Thanks for getting some sleep after the weekend. Thanks so much.
Something that's come up on my radar and has sort of like been doing the rounds is something called Tas Fair. Can you tell us a little bit about what that is and what you know about it?
So Tas Fair is a new like Ren Fair festival type of thing. One of our art community members is actually an organizing member, Cadence, and Tas Fair will be on the 26th of April this year down at Ross Village and Town Hall.
And Ross Village is an absolutely gorgeous historical village.
Place.
Some of my primary school years were spent at the old Ross School. It was very small, very historic building. Yeah, very picturesque. I couldn't think of a better location for a Ren Fair in Tassie than Ross, to be honest. It's pretty great. But I think there's also going to be like tabletop stuff happening at this Ren Fair from what I was reading on the website.
I think it's mostly D&D at this point, but hopefully there'll be more other like fantasy related games there next time. So I know there's also going to be LARPing as well, because what's a Ren Fair without LARPing?
Of course.
Yeah, so Tas Fair is organized by Tas Pop, so the Tasmanian Pop Culture Society, who are one of the largest non-profit organizations here that just handle everything related to pop culture. So it's like cosplay, geek markets throughout the state, D&D nights, trivia, all sorts of things like that.
Wonderful. That sounds like it's going to be an absolutely fantastic event. Very
it's
exciting. Yeah, that's also amazing.
The best price ever.
Yeah, certain activities will need tickets, but the main event is free.
I have to say, Tasmania is a perfect place for a good LARPing event as well, like especially going towards the winter time.
April's probably still going to be considered warm-ish for us, at least.
For Queenslanders, not so much.
Yeah, probably not. Yeah, it hits that nice little autumn place where it's not too hot to wear like period clothing, and it's not going to be too cold that you're going to need like big winter coats and ruin the thematic experience.
So yeah, the Midlands at that time of year are fantastic. I would highly recommend going if you can. Great location. I love myself a beautiful, clear autumn day down that way. So yeah, if you're on the fence about going, I would highly recommend. So, Joey, do you have so you've been a PAX enforcer for, some years, as well as sort of like getting into TTRPGs. Do you have like a favorite gaming related memory?
I'm going to shout out to the first non-D&D game that I played at PAX, which is Knight, which I'm sure everyone here knows and loves.
No.
Oh
my God, you stumped me.
You can tell that Dan does not listen to the podcast because we had an actual play of Knight over the Christmas period.
Oh my God, I just got called out hard.
You did.
Yeah, so Knight is by Armored Gaming.
Yeah, by Mark Barron of Armored Gaming. It is a beautiful Arthurian-inspired setting where you all play as fantastical knights. But Joey, what was your experience with it? Like, that was the first non-D&D game you played. You rocked up to the table. What were you expecting when you sat down?
Well, I didn't quite know what to expect exactly, but I was quite happy with the experience. Like, we got to draw our own map. It wasn't a system where it was a fail and success. It was a success or success without consequence, which kind of has always stuck to me now because I much prefer this kind of mechanic versus the traditional D&D, like roll, fail, success, fail kind of thing. And we just had a really great time. We had a volcano in our map. We had a cursed cemetery area. It was just a good time.
Excellent. Do love Night. It is a very lovely little system. So you've obviously got Cryptid Keeper coming up. What other things are in the pipeline in the world of Joey?
Last month, I did a supplement called Planet Vesta, which is a sci-fi system agnostic supplement. I will be expanding that because that exists in the same world as another like bigger world building supplement that I want to write that I haven't quite finished yet. So that's on the horizon. There's currently a dinosaur jam going on Itch that I'm also going to join with a dino hack of Cryptid Keeper that's going to be more Jurassic World type of situation. Instead of cryptids, it's going to be various dinosaurs, mammoths, and all that stuff. But I need to get to writing that.
I love that. That sounds fantastic.
Yeah. I'm actually quite excited about that, but work's been kind of all over the place lately, so I haven't actually started, but I've been thinking about it.
That time thinking, I think, is never wasted. So you've mentioned some game jams. Do you find game jams to be a really good way to get sort of like the creative juices flowing, to find community? What do you get out of participating in these game jams?
I personally really started to like doing game jams, like when I joined it, like I think October, November last year. So I've done a couple now because I really like this kind of like small project breakdown system where I can just work on one thing for this period of time and then I move on. And if I want to come back and revisit or expand on that, I can. But I'm a very results driven person, so I like having this kind of structure where something's planned, something's done, and I can tick a box like, oh, I've done this. So it's been working really well for me.
Yeah, fantastic. I think being results driven and having like those very discrete, smaller projects that you complete in a relatively short amount of time is a really great way to sort of get momentum into game designing and not caring about whether it's perfect or not. Because you do see it, much like in the world of writing books, people can often be like, oh, I'm still working on like my magnum opus. I'm still writing my first novel, or I'm still writing my first game, and they'll be trying to like rival the systems of like Pathfinder and other like big designed systems when, it might be easier to find some momentum if you just participate in like the smaller ones, whether they're supplements or they're like one-page RPG jams around a particular theme. They can be a little bit easier to get into and actually have stuff finished and start building that portfolio of games.
Yeah, 2 years later, I still haven't finished my cozy space game that I wanted to write. But oh well.
There are some things that live on the shelf for a very long time. Sometimes they get finished, sometimes they don't.
Everyone has a variety of shelves of shame of some description.
This is true. Excellent. Well, after all of that, I think it might be time to delve into our Fast 5 questions. These are not serious questions. We like to say there are no wrong answers except for one.
Ooh.
So it's highly unlikely that you'll stumble into this. And it was only a wrong answer because someone said it. And Kate had such a very visceral reaction to it that I think it's become a bit of a meme on the show.
Wait, was that was it the Pixel one or the PAX one? I think I heard it, but I kind of forgot about it now.
No, it was when we had Kat Clay on, and her answer to her favorite gaming snack was pastries.
Oh, yeah, I remember that now. Yep. Yeah.
Yes, it's created quite a controversy. Anyway, on that note, as long as you don't say pastries, what is your favorite gaming table snack?
I like light and refreshing things. So depending on the season, it might be grapes or blueberries or maybe like cut watermelon because I need it bite-sized. So always have some sort of fruit because I usually game at night after having dinner. So that's my dessert and my snack.
I like that. Yeah.
Yep.
Fruit's good for you. Eat fruits.
And do you have a favorite dice? Like, do you have a favorite dice size and dice set?
As a Call of Cthulhu player, I need to shout out the D10s. That's so underappreciated and like always overlooked.
I do love me a D10, and I think the Vampire the Masquerade players do
yes.
too. And do you have like a favorite dice set that you like to use?
This is going to be controversial. I only have one set of dice.
Wow.
There's a second wrong answer.
No, but I'm going to break for a follow-up question.
Yeah.
How do you have that amount of self-control?
Because I usually play online, so I really very, very rarely play in person. So one set is enough for me and it barely gets used at all. However, I will say I'm currently really obsessed with a set called the Nebula Rosa by Everything Dice, which is gorgeous and space themed with like liquid core that's really all the rage right now. It's beautiful.
Wow. Amazing. And let's say you've got someone, you're introducing them to tabletop role-playing games. What would be the ideal game that you would love to introduce them to?
I'm going to self-plug and say Zombies. Good for all ages, simple, rules light, one-pager, easy, done. And you can get a print pack that's perfect for a gift right now.
Yay. I love that answer. So you've got your gaming table snack, you've got your dice, you're running a game of zombies for people. What else do you like to have on the table?
Coffee. Doesn't matter the time of day, I'm like, coffee.
So as long as it doesn't affect your sleep, go for the coffee. Fantastic. And finally, our last question. If you could have a companion animal, a minion, a robot, that sort of thing, what would it be?
I'm also going to deep dive into this again. So I assume everyone here is a certain age and has watched Spy Kids. In Spy Kids, there is a scene where you see miniature sharks in a fishbowl. And I've been obsessed with sharks ever since, especially like tiny ones. Since that's never going to happen, I have a whole set of like plushy sharks to fill the void. But if I could, I would.
Wonderful.
That's so cool.
A shark.
Do you see how weird I am?
No, I've immediately Googled this and I'm on board.
Isn't it adorable?
Dan was like, miniature sharks, I'm here. This sounds amazing.
Yeah, and right now, with Marvel Rivals being everywhere, everyone's just like, yes, Jeff the Land Shark. Perfect.
Excellent. Alrighty. Well, thank you very much, Joey. If people wanted to find out more about you and what you do, where should they go on the interwebs?
So you can find me on my website or my itch or Blue Sky. Everything is just Joie Yong, JoieYong.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much for being on the show, Joey. It was an absolute delight, and we look forward to seeing what you create in the future.
Thank you for having me.
Let's jump into some news. Let's start with the events. So if you are listening to this episode as soon as it goes live, there is an event called The Great Game, which is a King's Poisoner tournament that has over $1,000 in giveaways to people who enter and prizes to be won. That is happening on Saturday, the 29th of March at Pause Menu in Fitzroy. The link will be in the description. There are also 2 conventions coming up, which I have already mentioned in previous podcasts, but to quickly recap, there is Conquest, which is happening over the Easter long weekend, and this is in Coburg, Victoria. So that will run from April 18th to April 20th. So that's over 3 days. ARC is also hosting something called Port Play. This will take place on the 3rd and 4th of May. It runs over 2 town halls, so both the St Kilda Town Hall and the Port Melbourne Town Hall. There is now a website up, so I'll post a link to the website in the description, but this is going to be a fantastic gaming and art festival, so get more details from the website. In shop news, there is a little shop that's based in Sydney called The Gilded Tabletop, and they make really cute D&D stationery, combat trackers, NPC notepads, D&D bookmarks, gold foil class stickers, fantasy sticker sheets, and more. Their style is really cute and whimsical, so check out the details for The Gilded Tabletop in the show notes. And finally, news about an upcoming Kickstarter. This one is for a game called Auto Steed Neon Badlands. The description reads, a synthwave meets punk rock journey across an unforgiving wasteland, inspired by Zoids, Mad Max, and Horizon Zero Dawn. Now, I have had the privilege of playing a very early playtest of this game. I'm sure much of it has changed, but I thoroughly enjoyed my time in the playtest, so I will put the link to the Kickstarter project and you can be notified when that project goes live. That's all I have for news this episode.
Some people have been asking us what the best thing they can do is to support the podcast. And honestly, it's rating and reviewing it wherever you're listening to it. It really does help us reach brand new audiences and other listeners just like you. TTRPGs are for everybody, and we want to reach as many people as possible. No matter where you're from, we want you to be part of the discussion, part of the roll call here at Aussie Roll Call.
This podcast is produced in affiliation with the Australian roleplay community. If you'd like to join the ARC community, head to arcrpg.org, where you'll find a link to our vibrant and inclusive Discord server. Your hosts have been Kate O'Sullivan, Dan Machuca, and Stevie Schaefer. Cover art by Helen Graham of Joie Studios. Title music is Sweet Sunday Groove by Slailkey. Interstitial music is Newer Wave by Kevin MacLeod, used under a Creative Commons 4.0 license. Production by Stevie Schaefer.